Ooh.
A high school girl was found dead in her room. Her note reads, "I'm sorry, mom and dad. I couldn't fulfill your dreams." Aditi Mishra ended her life because of a bad score on her exam. Her story is only one in thousands. A third of students in South Korea have contemplated ending their lives because of academic pressure. In Japan, self-inflicted death is the leading cause of death for children. In China,
It's not really just because of academic pressure. It's also societal and parental pressure. Because Asia has such a family first community or like a family first culture, they tend to really be affected by the thoughts or like the feelings of what their parents feel. Basically, if you disappoint your parents, you're going to be immensely disappointed in yourself.
China, self-inflicted death is so common that schools install metal bars on windows to prevent students from jumping off. Why are so many students in Asia so depressed? Because the infrastructure of many Asian countries rely on an education system comparable to modern slavery.
It's not just because of that. The reason Asian students are so depressed is because schools are also kind of doing absolutely nothing to prevent this. Sure, they put metal grates on the windows to prevent the students from jumping out of the window and, offing themselves. But you have to understand, the only reason they did that was simply because they wanted to retain their reputation. They wanted to do that in order to basically say that, hey, no students in our school has offed themselves in our school. No student has deleted themselves from existence in our school. And if they did kill themselves, they can just say, oh, they didn't kill themselves at school, they killed themselves at some other place, like at home. So they can shift the blame. They can pretty much say, oh, it's not our fault, it's not the education system's fault, it's not the school's fault that this kid offed himself, because our school doesn't suck. Yippee! You see how they're not even treating the problem? They put metal grates on it. Instead of making it easier, making it basically helping the students in any shape or form psychologically. All right? Not physically, psychologically. They're not even putting in the effort. Their only goal is to preserve their own well-being, their own status, prestige of the school. They don't give a damn about the students. If they did, they wouldn't have done those metal grates things. They would have instead actually tried.
And you'll soon see what I mean. These images look straight out of a dystopian movie, but this is actually the college entrance exam that every Chinese teenager must take, known as the Gaokao. A low score on this exam could mean a low-income job and discrimination from society. The Gaokao is treated like a national holiday. All construction stops, traffic diversions are created, airplane paths are changed to reduce noise. The exam room is full of cameras, metal detectors, and fingerprint and iris matching technology. Cheating on this exam can lead to 7 years in prison.
Wow, cheating on an exam should not be lines to get you sent to prison. That is absolutely insane. The thought that an exam can genuinely dictate the course of your life, your very destiny itself, is just absolutely mind-boggling. It's almost disappointing. Like, seriously? An exam, a piece of paper will pretty much dictate your destiny, your entire life on a piece of paper. No wonder these students are stressed the fuck out, because their lives are literally hanging on the balance.
And other Asian countries operate with a very similar system. Japan has the Common Test, India has the J, South Korea has the Seungyeong. These exams are packed with extremely difficult questions, which require years of intense studying to pass. They determine the future of millions of students, and the mental health effects can be seen in the thousands who end their lives every year. But what exactly do these students go through to make life a living hell? If you imagine what slavery is like, you might imagine 16 hours of work a day, a lack of freedom, and physical abuse from authorities.
Pretty much,
well,
yeah.
That's exactly what a student in Asia goes through. Do you ever find school exhausting? Well, get ready to change
Every fucking day.
your mindset. Because here's the study schedule of a South Korean student. Wake up at 6:30 in the morning. Get to school at 8 a.m. School ends at 4 p.m. And that's probably when you would go home and doom scroll. But not these South Korean students. They have to attend a cram school. Cram schools are private tutoring institutions that put students through long study sessions in high-pressure environments.
I never really understand the appeal or the reason behind cram school. It's pretty much just school. Like, bro, that's literally just school. And if you're not learning what the school is supposed to be teaching you, and you have to go to another school in order to learn what you need for that school's exam, doesn't that mean that the school is just inadequate? Doesn't that mean that the school is just failing to teach the students what is needed for them to actually pass? I feel like cram schools, the only reason cram schools exist is because they want to milk students of their money. I know for a fact cram schools are expensive as hell. Expensive. I'm pretty sure the only reason cram schools exist and still exists is because these people are making a bag out of it, a massive amount of money. And it's honestly really sad how they're using students as basically money bags, wallets.
A student gets out of cram school around 9 p.m., but they aren't done yet. They then go back to their school library and self-study until 11 p.m. Wow, that sounds like a long, rough day, huh? Well, it's not over yet. They then go back home and continue studying until 2 a.m. That only leaves them with 4 hours to sleep before they wake up and do it all again.
That is not a human way to live. That is, I'm sorry, but people who actually do this are, I'm not saying that you're less than human. I'm actually saying that you're actually amazing. People who do this are genuinely amazing, because I could not. I genuinely could not. I would be one of those thousands of people that would off myself if I had to do this.
Why do they study so hard? Because if they don't do well on their entrance exam, they won't attend a good university, and they'll be stuck with a low-income job and a difficult life. Their intense study schedule isn't an option, it's a necessity. And it's not just South Korea. A 16-hour study schedule is very common for students all across Asia. And along with this, there's also a very toxic culture around competition at Asian schools. All grades and test scores are publicly displayed for parents and students to see, and having a low score could mean shame, insecurity, and even bullying. This
Wow, I have so much to talk about. First of all, why? Why the other students? Like, can't you just show the parents? Understandable. They're your parents. They should be allowed to see your grades. But the other students? This is not a competition. I just want to make a livable wage when I graduate and get to work. Not just a livable wage, actually. I want to genuinely be able to live. You know, go out sometimes, party, go vacation, that kind of living. I do not need to be competing with my fellow classmates on who can get the higher number on what by all means necessary, a piece of paper.
This creates additional pressure to study harder. And if that isn't bad enough, physical abuse is another factor contributing to high self-inflicted death rates in Asia. Imagine you're in high school and you hand your homework to the teacher past the due date. The teacher stands up and slaps you in the face. You'd probably be in shock, but to a student in Asia, it's just part of life. The reason I know this is because I've seen it myself. When I was 6 years old, I went to China for vacation. For whatever reason, my parents put me in an elementary school there for a few days. When I was there, I witnessed a very strange method of teaching. Teachers would call on a student to answer a math question. If that student gave the wrong answer, the student got smacked with a wooden stick. And remember, these are 6-year-olds that I'm talking about. Corporal punishment is illegal in many Asian countries, but that doesn't prevent teachers from doing it. Reporting this act is an extremely complicated process.
First of all, you should not be doing that, bruh. Under any circumstance, should an adult hurt a child in the process of learning? Because at that point, that is no longer learning. You are just forcing knowledge into that child's brain. That is different from learning. Learning should be, when people say learning should be fun, I actually genuinely believe in that. In the genuine saying that it should be entertaining, fun, and not harmful in any way. Because at some point, if you start hurting a child in their developmental stage at 6 years old, they're not going to be wanting to learn anymore. Their drive to learn, to actually learn, and I'm not just talking about like studying, no, learning, actual genuine learning will go down. It will lower to an unprecedentedly lower degree. These are the types of students that genuinely normally become bullies, genuinely become idiots. And that's not their fault. It's because they don't want to study. You see, the human brain is really good at pattern recognition. And since they're not willing to, basically, their brain will say to them, oh, you got this question wrong. You don't know this question. You don't know the problem. Well, you're just gonna get hit if you don't know it, and if other people know it, then you're just gonna get hit. So it's just better to just not ask questions. And you see, that's the problem. That means that those students, those kids will never ask questions. They will never learn because they will never, hey dad, why is there rain? Why is the grass like that? Why does this spin? Why does an electric fan spin? How does it spin? How does the motor work? They were never asked those questions. Therefore, they will never learn. This will lower their will to learn. This will lower their overall knowledge and IQ. People who are genuinely treated like normal human beings at the age of 2 to 12 are generally the smartest people I know.
So as a result, teachers almost always get away with it. In some cases, parents even prefer teachers who implement physical punishment. There are countless anecdotes and video evidence on the internet of students in Asia being hit by their teachers. There have even
I know I'm yapping a lot, but I promise after this yap, I'm gonna stop yapping and just let it go run its course. Maybe at some points when I really need to say something, I'ma say it. But if a parent is willing to put their child in the arms of a person that they know is willing to harm, and is not only willing but will actively harm their child in any shape or form, that should be considered child abuse. That should be considered child abuse. Because you're willingly putting your child in the arms, in the care of a person that you know full well will harm your child. By that point, that is no different from giving your child a beating yourself. That should be grounds for arrest. Child abuse. That just straight up should be called child abuse. Not just by the teacher that is harming the student, but by the parents that are willing to let this type of stuff happen.
Even been some cases where students were beaten to death. In Taiwan, a whopping 70% of junior high students had experienced physical abuse from their teachers. In 2011, 98% of South Korean students reported physical punishment from their teachers. One school in China even forced parents to consent to their children being hit. This tradition of abuse has been passed on throughout centuries, and because it's so culturally accepted, Asia just turns a blind eye to it. Several self-inflicted deaths in Asia have been directly attributed to physical punishment from teachers, and studies have proven a direct link between physical punishment and the desire for self-inflicted death. And if you think this is bad enough, let me remind you that in Asia, talking about your mental health is like talking about your diarrhea. It's just not something you talk about. This is because Asian culture is centered around perfection, and any issue of mental health is a sign of weakness. Valuing mental health is seen as shameful and selfish, as if a person only cares about themselves and not the people around them. As a result, Asian students hide their emotions and struggle, and they almost never seek help. 70% of South Korean students who ended their lives did not show any unusual characteristics at all. This also means that essential mental health resources such as therapy, psychiatry, and counseling are very limited, and students rarely use them. Mental illness is rarely diagnosed or treated in Asia, and many Asian people even deny the existence of disorders like depression or ADHD because they see it as a weakness. Now combine everything I've just discussed with frequent bullying between students and abuse from parents, and it should be no surprise that so many students wish to end their lives. However, what remains shocking is that children under 14 are doing the exact same thing. In recent years, South Korea saw an increase in self-inflicted death in girls between 10 and 14 years old. And China saw a similar increase in children between 5 and 14 years old. These children should be playing with toys and watching SpongeBob, but in Asia, children study up to 11 hours a day. One reason for this is because class grades play a crucial role in college acceptance. Another reason is that many Asian countries also adopt an exam system for entering junior high and high school. A bad score on these exams could mean losing the opportunity for a proper education, or being forced into vocational school, which prepares students for labor work. As a result, the pressure to do well is extremely high in children as well. This video of a little girl begging her parents for more playtime says it all.
我的时间呐，我不能没有自由啊，我不能光在学习身上啊。我写完作业了，我把我自己的事情干完了，难道我娃还有问题吗？难道我娃还有问？
Alright, no, I have to talk about this one. That child is talking like an adult that just got off like a 13-hour work shift. That child, straight up, that child is talking like she just came out of I don't know, the worst 9 to 5 in her life. And honestly, I understand. You can hear the genuine
不能
sadness.
光在学习身上啊！我写完作业了，我把我自己的事情干完了，难道我娃还有？
You can't just hear it, you can see it visually. I can feel her sadness, her anger at why she has to do this shit for practically the rest of her life. Her childhood days. A child should not be forced into this kind of labor, because at this point this is labor. This is actually just labor. There's no reward to this. There's no fun in this. A maniac would have fun in this, but most children would not have fun in this. No wonder. And people ask why Asian children are so much smarter than the average, not just children, the average Asian itself are just so much smarter than any other kind of person in the world. It's because we're getting tortured to do this stuff. It's because they're getting tortured to pretty much force them to inject. This isn't even knowledge at this point. This is just forced information.
问题吗？难道我娃还有问题吗？
With death rates so high, you might be wondering how Asian governments are responding to this problem. Well, there have been some attempts to lessen academic pressure, but it's not nearly enough. Many Asian governments have cracked down on cram schools to reduce student workload. South Korea is planning.
Woo, good. Rare government W. Cram schools should straight up be deleted from existence, and the students who pay for that stuff should get compensation, because there's no way. Like I said, cram schools are just straight up, they sound like a waste of time. I've never been to a cram school, alright? I don't know what I'm talking about. But from the general knowledge of what cram school is, and from my friend, Boboy, my friend, that's his name, Asian, he goes to cram school, he is not having fun there. And if that's the case, I genuinely wish cram schools get deleted from existence.
To ban cram schools from operating past 10 p.m. Many Asian countries have set limits on how much homework a student can receive. Countries have also implemented crisis hotlines and are attempting to provide students with more mental health resources.
Clearly, it's not working. And about the homework part again, why the fuck does homework exist? This isn't about this Asian thing. This is straight up just a school thing. Why does it exist? Bruh. Like, homework was invented as punishment for missing a class day. So why isn't it being used for its intended purpose? It should be used as a punishment for missing a day of class. They should be forced, a student should be given an assignment based on what they missed on what they learned. Not so they could use the assignment to actually learn. You know those assignments where the teacher gives you an essay type of like, do some research on this particular topic and then put it in an essay on this piece of paper, then pass it in school. And then in school we're going to talk about it. We're going to have a recitation about it. Bro, at that point, what's the point of school? All right? What's the point of school if you're going to make us go home, then make us learn at home? Aren't we supposed to be learning at school? At that point, just demolish the school as well. It's useless as hell if you're just going to give us homework. Homework is the most, I'm sorry for my words, all right? Curse warning. Homework is the most bitch ass, fucked up invention in all of human history. Actually, no, hold on. We got gas chambers, we got torture devices. It is up there, all right? It is at least up there with those things.
But these attempts don't change the fact that college admissions are still extremely competitive, and many parents and students are secretly continuing intense studying and lessons. The pressure to do well remains extremely high. Unless Asian countries reform their education systems, nothing will get better. Which begs the question, what changes do Asian countries really need? Well, an entrance exam shouldn't be the sole determining factor for college acceptance.
Yeah.
People are more than just test scores. There are multiple categories of intelligence, and everyone has their own individual strengths and weaknesses. But Asian education systems do not recognize this. Their worth to society is not in their unique traits, but rather a numerical value on their exam. Compare this to Western countries, where college acceptance isn't just determined by test scores, but also essays and personal statements, letters of recommendation, and extracurricular activities, in which a student's individuality shines through. Exam scores only measure how much information a student can memorize. These exams do not measure a student's creativity, or intelligence, or real-world problem-solving abilities, which are qualities that should matter the most to a society. Through this system, many bright and capable students are losing the opportunity to change the world. Asia's education system reveals a very dark future that Asia is heading down. Although Asian governments and parents have gradually realized this problem, more action needs to be taken. As populations rise and job markets shrink, competition will rise drastically, and education requirements will only increase. Students will continue to suffer in a demanding, abusive system. If creativity is not valued in Asian nations, then people will stop being creative. But this decline of creativity is actually something happening all around the world, and the results will soon be devastating. If you want to know what I'm talking about, then click right here. As you can see, I'm a very small channel, so hey guys, please subscribe, please like, I'd really appreciate that. I have a lot more videos coming soon, so I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Hold on guys, before you click off the video, I would just like to say thank you for watching the video or watching my streams. And if you guys want to support me more, I do have a Twitch where I stream my videos. It's called That Guy Talks a Lot, and basically these videos are made from clips of those streams that I make on Twitch. And yeah, I would really appreciate it if you guys like and subscribe and followed on my Twitch account and stuff like that. And basically, I stream every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want to watch my streams, then see you there. Have a great day, guys.